welcome back. I feel like you're still not really convinced. I bet you're thinking, Andre, I feel like you're overhyping closures. They're not that exciting. You said it was going to give me superpowers. Well, maybe this video will convince you otherwise. You see, closures have two very important main benefits. I mean, there are obviously a lot of benefits, but there's two that I really want to focus on. And that is, they can be very memory efficient. And it also allows to do something called encapsulation. I hope I spelled that right. Now, these two things are probably the coolest part about closures. And I hope that this is going to blow your mind. Let's start off with the first one, memory efficient. Let's say that we have a little function. I know all my functions I say are fun, but I think this one's extra fun. All right. Let's say I have a function here, and we'll call it a heavy duty function. And this heavy duty function, well, it's heavy duty because we're going to create a big array here. And a nice, easy, simple way to create a massive array is to do something like this. New array, and I'll fill it up with 7,000 entries, and use the fill method that comes with arrays, and fill it in with a smiley face. And in here, we'll just return big array. So just to test it out, let's see what happens when I run heavy duty. I click run. All right, lots of smiley faces. Everybody's happy. That's great. Okay, but let's say that obviously this is a silly example, but let's assume that this is a very heavy duty operation that we need to do. And let's say that maybe this operation is about accessing a massive array. For example, if I do item here, I can access big array by the index number. So let's say, actually, instead of item, let's do index here. And if I do index, I can access different parts of the array, like 600 or 688. And if I run this, index is not defined because I can't spell. Let's try that again. Click run. There you go. I'm accessing the index of new array. All right, so far so good. But let's say this index, 688, is someplace in maybe a database or just an array that gets accessed a lot. What if we call this function many times? Many, many times. Every time I run it, well, right now we can't see, so let's just add a console.log created, which will be a string that we run 4 times. And in this case, we see here that we're creating a big array, adding data to our memory, which we have limited memory of. We're creating it every time. So every time we run this function, we create this memory, and then we return it, and because nothing's referencing it, it gets destroyed. And then we create it, and then gets destroyed. We create it, and then gets destroyed. We create it, and then gets destroyed. All right, that doesn't sound very efficient. Wouldn't it be great if there was a way for us to create this array, and because we know it's going to be used a lot, to only create it once and just have it in memory there so we can just constantly access it instead of doing all that work? How can we do that with closures? If you want, pause here and try and solve this yourself. Otherwise, I'm going to get going. Instead of using the original heavy duty function, let's create another function down here. And this function will be called heavy duty 2. And heavy duty 2, well, will be a function that for now we can just copy from up above right here. Let's do that. And I'm going to remove some of these. There you go. So heavy duty 2, we're going to make some adjustments to it so it uses closure. The first thing that we should think about is, well, a closure returns a function. So we want to add this to that little closure box, and then return a function that holds a reference to big array. So let's do that. I'm going to change this to created again. And in here, I'm going to create a function that receives the index. And inside of here, we're going to return big array at index. Nothing that much different from above, except for one thing, right? We've created closure. That is, we have a reference to big array. Let's see what happens if we run this. I'm going to run the heavy duty original function 3 times. And then I'm also going to create a variable called get heavy duty. And this variable will actually use the heavy duty 2 function. And the heavy duty 2 function actually doesn't even need the parameter index anymore, because index is something we're going to pass to the function that gets returned from it. So here, I'm just going to call this. And then I'm going to just say get heavy duty and call 688. Maybe call something else as well. Let's do 700. And then get heavy duty, finally 800. Let's just remove the semicolons. We don't really need those. Now, if I run this, did you see that? Now, obviously, I'm able to use get heavy duty or heavy duty 2 up over here because, well, of hoisting, right? Function declarations get hoisted to the top. But we see a difference here, right? The first heavy duty was, well, created 3 times versus heavy duty 2, where we used closures. We were able to create the big array once, and because we knew we were going to access it a lot, we just maintained that closure scope over it. And we were able to call it over and over without doing all that creation destruction work. How cool is that? All right, still not convinced that closures are cool? Well, how about the second benefit of closures? Encapsulation. For that, I'll see you in the next video.